Welcome to another episode of Altered States Podcast. I'm Harry Williams here with my co-host, Josh Gape.
Good morning, Harry. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Very good. It's a lovely week. This weather is fucking fantastic.
Yeah, it's actually been very lovely. For all the Devon residents, I could not suggest more going down to the River Dart. Mel Pool was where we were the other day.
So, right, I've got a bone to pick with you on this. So we looked it up, and it is called Shara
Pool. No, it
Pool.
isn't.
Yeah, it is.
Where did you look it up?
Down. It is. You looked it up.
No, it's not.
Could be fake news.
Shara Pool is on from Spitchwick Common. Mel Pool is where you're saying I've been labouring under a misapprehension. It isn't called Mel. It is definitely called. It must be.
Do they potentially link up? And this is the middle. Or my geography's not.
So you don't know, like you're not. This
is a Google search, rudimentary.
Well, exactly.
Google search, not complete by myself either.
You got. I've told you about Google before. You know you need to bin that off, mate. You start using DuckDuckGo, Yandex. These systems that have not been infiltrated.
That was just a slip of the tongue. All right, I always use DuckDuckGo. It's just they programmed into my brain. I say Google, but I mean DuckDuckGo.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah,
just set the record.
Just do some more double speak now. When I say one thing, I mean another. No, but it's it's been wicked. It has been a little bit. No, I really enjoy the heat, but it has been a little. You've been struggling somewhat.
Yeah, sleeping's been tough. It's weird because, like, I feel this week I felt in holiday mode. Like I fully felt like taking the week off, and you are actually in holiday mode.
I'm in my last week of holiday mode. Yeah, we're back in week yesterday. So, but we're not properly in. We've got like a 2-day team building session, which is just gonna be like drinking and sort of having fun.
Obviously you normally go away for that, right?
Yeah, normally we go abroad, but with all the rigmarole, it's just like that would be potentially the most logistical nightmare I could ever think of.
Yeah.
So we're going down to Newquay, I think, or not Newquay, one of the days, and then Penzance the other, which will be good.
So what does that look like? You just go out?
Well, I think because obviously Knowlesy has the Red Bull thing. I think they're setting up like something for us on Penzance Beach, and then we're going to this place called the Watering Hole on the second day. I think the itinerary's pretty loose, but it's
Watering Hole as a pub.
It's a beach bar, I think. It's a beach bar down in Newquay. But since the Freedom Day has come around, in inverted commas, I think we don't need to get into that. I think that it's gonna be going off a little bit.
Nice, man. So no training whatsoever. It's just like
no training whatsoever. Now we'll start on Monday. I think we got that. We have also a fitness test like we spoke about with Max. We're gonna do something quite similar.
The Bronco.
Now we do the AST, which is like down up. It's not as the Bronco's different. The Bronco's like straight running. This is more like up down sprint kind of situations.
How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Yeah, but we've done a fair bit of training and stuff. I've been like down Topsham with the lads doing games and that. So it's been all right.
Do you get at all nervous for those fitness tests on the morning?
Yeah. I think you'd be. I'd be lying to say that. Everyone does it. It's weird, isn't it? It's like you get nervous because you know you're going to feel horrible, which is quite like everyone seems to go through that.
Yeah, and results surely, like you want to perform quite well.
Yeah, but is it like it's true. You don't want to. I think you don't want to seem like you've just like had a complete jolly, because I suppose there's like a certain level of responsibility you got to have when you go away for like a month off basically, and you go away, just like proper kick your feet up, which is obviously what you're meant to do.
Yeah.
But it has really no names to be named, but it's seriously done some lads under that where like this fatigue makes cowards of all, and these lads were really, really in the hole.
Yeah. How much of those tests do you think are like physical and mental? So in the ones that you've done, how many can you honestly say like your legs just wouldn't move anymore, or do you think it's your head that goes, look, I'm nearly really at that point?
I think with the bleep test and the yo-yo, it's like that. Because you always finish the yo-yo and the bleep, and you're like, oh, I could have done one more, which is what this is like the biggest like what gets in your head about it. Whereas with like the AST and the Broncos, like it's a definite finish.
Yeah.
But they say that The strength and conditioners always say don't pace yourself because it's done on reps. So it's like, I think it's 10 total reps. So you do like 1 rep and then break 2 reps of like this thing to a big 4, which is like always the hard one, and then 1 rep to finish of these. Especially you start on a cone, you start on your front, up, go to a 5 meter back pedal, do a down up, out to 10, round, down up, out to 20, round, and that's 1 rep. So you have to do that like 4 times. So it just gets, but they're like, oh, don't pace yourself, go as hard as you can. So like lads are like absolutely gone in the first rep, like basically hitting the fence past the thing, and then like you're just exhausted for the rest of it.
Yeah. So what? But how do you get graded on that then? It's like,
because they time how many. So they're on a watch timing how long each rep takes, and then you get a total like gross. Like how many? Let's say it takes you like 250 seconds to do all the reps that they wanted to.
So it does kind of make sense to like gun it from the first, because you're gonna get a bit of time, but then.
But I think you make the most seconds back on the 4 rep. Do you know what I mean? That's all. This is just obviously there's more than one ways to skin a cat.
Yeah.
You know that expression. Don't
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean,
mate, it's impressive. When I used to do Muay Thai, there was a guy who was like an older guy that used to come to the class, and that was like his attitude for everything. Like he would go full go from minute 1. So say you're like finishing the session with, they used to do this like rank drill where you do like 10 kicks to the pad one side, 10 kicks with the other side, 9, 9, 8, all the way down to 1, and then back to 10. Ooh. And like most people would like pace it out of the gate, and then you'd go all the way through.
Yeah.
And you'd be knackered by the end. He would go as hard as he could for those first 10 kicks either side. And to be fair to him, like he was probably in his 50s, and he was in ridiculous. Like his cardio was outrageously good. Yeah. And actually, I was watching some of the like Lions build-up stuff on the weekend, and someone was saying that's what like Alan Wynne Jones is like in training. He just fucking
goes as hard as he can
for everything.
And then, yeah.
Like even they get the water bottles out. It's like water break, sprint over to the water bottles. That sort of character.
I thought when we used to do the Strongfit, those sort of strongman sessions, like just over a year ago, that was like the attitude that Julian, whatever his name is, he says, doesn't he? He says go. If you can do it in 1 set, do it in 1 set and just like try and hang on for the rest of the session. Except for the next session, you'll make improvements after that.
So his theory, which isn't my theory, and I don't know how much. Well, I'll unpack my opinion on it after it is. But he basically what he says is like the way energy systems work is that. Right, I'm going to butcher this. So basically, lactate has got more potential energy. So when you've got like I'm trying to think how the Krebs cycle works in my head, but yeah, basically what he says is that lactate isn't actually a waste product. That is a more broken down form of energy, and you can actually make more ATP from lactate. So what he suggests to do is do a lactate sort of threshold exercise for the first exercise. So when we were doing it, it would be like
a minute of front squat.
Yeah, a minute front squat, as many reps as you could do, minute off back in for like three sets, and your legs would just be killing.
Yeah.
And what he's saying, what his theory is that you've built up lactate in your system, which then gives you a more readily available source of energy for the rest of the training session. Now, I remember when I looked into it at the time, and it kind of makes sense from like a science perspective, but then in practicality, when we were doing it, I was so mentally exhausted by the end of those first sets. Then when you're carrying the farm, you're doing the farmer's walk, you're pushing the prowler and stuff, you're just mentally fatigued. So it's like
the sessions were like completely exhausting. But it's weird when lactate's a weird thing though, because it doesn't improve as time goes on. You like get real sick feeling in your stomach. And you like, it's bizarre because there's nothing you feel you can do to dissipate the feeling. It can last like an hour. Because you were like sick, like
literally lying on the concrete, doing my best not to be sick, like salivating from my mouth. Gross, man. But so actually, let's dive into that. So, in terms of you've had what, like 4 or 5 weeks off now?
Yeah.
What you've been doing in terms of, so you finished. What's your approach been like in terms of? Did you strategically plan, right, I'm going to have a couple of weeks completely off, and then you've eased your way back into it, ready to start pre-season?
I don't know, it was quite like, I was quite like cerebral with us, is that the right, like kind of not instinctive, like I just, because it sounds weird, but when I I didn't like, I need to have these number of weeks off, because like I finished the season and I went out for the end of the season social and I was like pretty totaled for like a few days, and I went back home to see my parents, and like it sounds weird, but like there's something, I find it really therapeutic going to the gym with my dad. He goes for a swim and I go to the gym with him.
Yeah.
And it always feels it's quite weird. It's quite like a good reset point. Like when I didn't get picked for the World Cup, or when we won and we did the double, I went home and saw him for a couple of days. And like I always feel it's like doing it is quite like cathartic, like in a weird kind of way. Because it's like it's always sort of like, I can always go there, do a session with him, chill out. We go home and get a coffee on the way home. So I did a couple of sessions like that, like gym. Did a little bit of running. Then I had like a full week off last week when I went to Ibiza. And I just kind of do this. The stuff that I want to do is the things that I can't normally do in season. So it's like going down PFP where me and you train, whole type PFP as well, best gym in Exeter.
Yeah. And
do all the strongman stuff, because in the season you can't normally do it because it's so neurally taxing. The farmers walks, the yoke, like the backward sled pull, great exercise. Mm-hmm. So I just kind of do like what I fancy, and the lads have been doing games as well down at the Topsham Uni Field as well, which has been like good crack. So it's just. Some of the lads don't, but I quite enjoy like training, so it's not like a chore for me to have to go and do that. I've sort of just here and there really, wherever I fancied.
Yeah, I have not exactly the same thing, but a similar thing. Like my old man was the first person to get me into training.
Yeah.
We have like a real sort of rudimentary gym set up in the garage, like bench press and stuff like that, and. Like when he taught me how to train when I was like younger, it was like all he knew was like sort of bodybuilding.
Yeah.
You know, like 4 sets of 12 different things. And I sometimes just like gravitate back towards that with my training. Say I'm not feeling inspired to train and do whatever I want to do. I'll just come in and do like one of those old school sessions that I used to do with my old man. And it's
how old were you when he taught you how to do all that?
Like 15.
Did you ask, or was he like, "Come on, boy"?
No, I think I asked. Like he always used to train. Like we had a like garage on the side of the house, and he had all his stuff in there. He never used to go to the gym. Like he used to just train at the house.
Yeah.
And I think like just growing up, I'd see him train, and then when I started doing like boxing, 14, 15, started playing rugby, and you know what it's like when you first start getting in rugby academies.
Yeah, you get these like nutty coaches. Oh, you need to put on.
Yeah, you need to put on 5 stone in the next year.
I need to put on, it's just 60 kilos, I think, is the amount of weight you have to put on, mate. It's low. On 60 kilos, that's ridiculous, but like...
Yeah, some of the stuff I used to do was fucking stupid. But yeah, so, and I don't know, I suppose through that, like thinking, I got to put on weight and blah, blah, and you don't know anything about training. And, you know, my dad had like a real sort of like rudimentary understanding of training. Like he used to go and do bodybuilding stuff like just do running and stuff. But it wasn't like he wasn't training for a sport, or... It's just like doing some stuff that you'd seen in like, you know, magazines back in the day and that sort of thing. So yeah, I started training with him like probably like around 15.
It's quite mad though, because I was thinking this, because now we live in the age of information. I do think sometimes it can be like paralysis by analysis a little bit, where people are like, they want to follow it, like, oh, there's this new method, or there's this new coach and all this kind of stuff. Whereas like if you used to just have like magazines like Muscle and Fitness or Flex or whatever it was, it's like the information seems like way more precious, whereas now it's like the information's worthless, because you can find any program, anything that's written in any of these magazines in like seconds.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It's like with that, because the supply now is so great, it's like the value of it is just like gone through the floor. Like there is no value to information anymore. Like what's the point in buying a magazine now, like a bodybuilding magazine? Genuinely.
Yeah. No. Well, I don't know anyone that still buys bodybuilding.
Yeah. In fact, I don't know how are they still going?
Probably like a few. There's probably a few like niche mags out there, like.
But
majority of stuff is, you know, you get, what was it? Where did you used to get your training information? Well, I was like T Nation at like the age of 15, like reading all these work. Like
T Nation is a good web. I like T Nation. Yeah. Christian Thibodeau.
Yeah.
Hold tight, Christian Thibodeau.
His website's good as well. Like he's got loads of good stuff on there.
But can you subscribe to him, or is it all free?
No. So he's like he sells well. So he might have a subscription platform, but like he does a lot of like where you can buy his programs, and he does a lot of the same stuff as Charles Poliquin does, and that James from PFP knows about, where it's like neural type training. If he works out, I think you do a Braverman test, which is like a test anyone can do free online, which works out like what neurotransmitter dominance you have.
Is that like the dopamine?
Yeah, like dopamine,
serotonin.
Dopamine. I can't think of the four. There's like four main ones.
And which one you mainly?
Yeah, and then you get categorized off the back of this test, and like dopamine, for example, is like they suggest if you're a dopamine dominant individual that you should change your assistant exercises like every 3 to 4 weeks, because otherwise like you get bored effectively.
Yeah.
And then there's certain types of people that want to do the exact same training program for 12 weeks and just like looking to get an extra rep or an extra set or reduce their rest.
They don't need that extra stimulus. I was actually going to ask you, because we were talking about this, about dopamine the other day. Do you think you can exist in modern society and not have like fried dopamine receptors? Because I was wondering about this, because it's so like we constantly have these like, I don't know, it's weird because I have an Instagram account and I obviously need to get that back up and rolling, but I don't have the app. And like yesterday I'll just download the app to see, I don't know, like just have a look at it basically. And I was like, I could feel my brain like just like twitching, and I was on it. I was like, gee, like I can see why. People get so hooked into it, and I can sort of see like it is, but it's a weird addiction where you don't miss it when it's gone. Like I imagine if you're addicted to like cigarettes or fucking heroin or something like that, like you have like a physical urge to have it back, but once it's gone, it feels like a weight is lifted.
Weight off your shoulders. 100%, man. Like I think most people are walking around with their dopamine receptors like completely fried due to social media is a big one, and then there's other things as well, but it's just because of that like constantly changing stimulus. And you see, like I'll do it where I've got my current practice, which I've started to do, is I like every time I think about going and check Instagram, instead I do like 3 deep breaths or just try and stay like in that moment, do like a miniature meditation, whether it's like 30 seconds, and you come out the other side of that, you never want to check your phone.
Yeah, just like,
But it's like, it's nuts, mate. Like I'll sit in the living room and like be watching TV in the evening or something, or just chilling out, and I'll put my phone like on the windowsill or on the table over in the corner, and it's like almost like you feel it. And there's times where I've literally stopped myself and I'm 3 foot across the room towards the table.
What am I doing?
Completely on autopilot. Like I haven't thought about it. Like made a conscious decision. I'm not going to check my phone. I'm putting it over here on the table. And I'm like mid-flight, like going to grab it. I'm like, what the fuck?
What am I doing?
Yeah, it's mad. The tech is scary.
No, but I just sort of... Do you think I suppose you need to do it for the business, but like... I've spoken about this for like 6 months or so. I'm just getting like a little like flip phone. And having like... Because I speak to my mum, dad, you, your girlfriend, my girlfriend, and about 10 other people.
Yeah.
Like quite regularly. Everyone like... I've got like... You have so many contacts on your phone. It's like I don't actually... speak to any of these people. Could like had just the capability to send a text. I don't even think you do that though. I think you just like call people, put the phone, and it would be like, I actually wonder, it'd be quite a cool monthly challenge thing to do that. Or maybe you could have like your phone back at the house where you show if you wanted to go on it before bed, or like check your emails, something like that, you can do it. But you could do it on a computer though. Yeah.
So if I didn't have my business, running my business through effectively Instagram, I would 100% not have it. Like I don't have a personal Facebook account. I haven't had one of those for like years.
But you never had Facebook. Like you were one of the at uni. You would never really had any social media.
Yeah, so I did have Facebook when I was at uni. I deleted Facebook after I finished uni. I don't think I did have a personal Instagram, but I never used to use it. I deleted both of them. I didn't have them for like 3-4 years, something like that.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful, peaceful time in my life. And then, because of the business, I had to get it all back. And now, like, because like at any one time, like I'll go on my Instagram now, I'm guarantee I've got like 20 odd messages from like people, customers asking about like different bits and pieces. And that's part of the thing, right? That's part of the mission of the business. Like you want to help people.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So it's like, I do get a lot of fulfillment from like going on there and like speaking to people. What I do is I'll set a time limit. It's like every one time every day, and I find that to have those conversations is not that mentally taxing. So I'll normally do it at the end of the day after I've done like
everything else you need to get done before that.
Yeah, other stuff which is more like cognitively challenging, and then I'll go, right, okay, I've got an hour, and I'll just like churn through as many of my messages as possible. But yeah, it's just like if I didn't have the business, I would 100% not have it.
Do you? So say you want to have kids one day, what would be your technology policy? It's a hard one, man.
It's a difficult one. So I think for as long as I could keep it like not on their radar, I would keep it not on their radar for as long as possible. And I think one of the best ways to do that is like by setting an example of like you not being on your phone. So like I would never want to be that parent of like, you know, mate, honestly, I was driving down the road the other day. Some woman was like on her phone pushing a push chair, and she pushed at like a, you know, like a where you can cross the road.
Zebra crossing.
Zebra crossing. I haven't had my lines made this morning. And she pushed the pram out. Like she stopped.
Sorry, one of those things where you cross the road, it's got like black and white stripes.
God, that was
organic line, mate, guys. Only was it oat grown? Do not buy oat grown lines.
Do not buy oat grown. Yeah, so and she just pushed the pram out into the road, and I was like, "What?"
So you shout out the window?
No, she knew. She did it absentmindedly, and then like quickly retracted the pram from, you know, to safety.
Yeah.
But I was just like, "What on earth?" So yeah,
was the kid also on a phone?
Yeah, the kid was in there, 1 year old.
Yes.
Like,
it's like, but mate, I find it. There's a guy. He's been deplatformed, Gavin McInnes. I speak to him man quite a lot. I subscribe to his podcast.
Yeah,
the only podcast but it's very good, funny, and he says that he calls them like crack pipes for kids. He said he'd been away for like the weekend, and it was like beautiful sun, and he walked inside his house, and he was like, kids were all just there on their crack pipes, like it was beaming sunshine.
Yeah,
they're all just there, just like, oh, like you can't, because it's something about the children's minds, and you see it, man. It's like completely pacifies them, which you can see why parents want to do it, because imagine your kids in a proper pain in the arse.
Yeah.
You're like, just take that and then just like chilled. You can see how it would be, because it takes the responsibility out of your hands.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they probably don't know that it's in any way bad for them. So they're just like, if it feels good, just do it.
Yeah, it's still. So I saw a study where it was like they looked at people, like how people's sense of self developed, and they used what's it called, like a CT scan, like the big tube where you go in and they can scan your brain.
They do the brain and that.
Yeah, the brain, like the brain scanner, and they were like putting people in these brain scanners and getting them to think of like different things. So like think about this, think about that, and they're testing which side of the brain like light up.
Yeah.
And then they just put them in. They were like, right, we want you to just like chill, just think of nothing, like whatever. So they'd go in and different parts of their brain were lighting up, like where they were thinking about stuff.
Yeah.
And then after like a period of like, you know, being in isolation with nothing to like stimulate them, they just went into this like almost switched off state. And they said on the brain scan, it looked like almost like a Mohican, like down the center of the brain lit up. And they say that's the part of the brain which like helps people develop their sense of self.
Well, like who? So you think about who you are? Like what do you mean by sense of self?
Yeah, I suppose like who you are, like what, I don't know, what characteristics you want to embody as a human being, and all that sort of stuff. And I think that's something that's massively kind of potentially going to be lacking in like future generations. When, you know, think about when you were a kid growing up, like how many times you were bored, like, or just like in the garden, like,
just like kicking stones,
like doing that sort of thing. That doesn't exist anymore, because that period, that time for the majority of kids, or for a lot of kids, is taken up when they're like on their iPads or whatever, and that's a constantly changing stimulus. And you know, we know that completely fries the dopamine receptors. So not only are they not developing this sense of self, but they're frying their dopamine receptors. And I actually saw another study as well saying like the imagination of kids is like going down massively. And you think about, again, when you're like, I don't know, as a kid, like you're like wandering about or whatever, and you're like thinking of all this stuff in your head, you know, you're having like toy fight, you know, like play
picking
fights.
Up a stick up, this stick's like a two-handed sword.
Yeah, exactly.
There's always a two-handed sword, Miles. It's always my weapon of choice.
I was going to say machine gun, but
you're a machine gun type of. Then I was like always like medieval, like
I respect that. To be
actually,
fair.
what it was once me and this is quite an embarrassing story. Me and my he was
it's no backing out now. You gotta tell it.
We were out in his garden, and we were like, oh, and we were playing. We had these like coconuts.
Yeah,
that we used to make like a horse hopping around sound with them, like Monty Python.
Is that
And
it?
we were, no, it's not, brother. It gets way worse. And we were like stood on the lawn, and he had a brother who's like he'd be like 6 or 7 years older than us, and we were like playing a game, and we were like, and I was basically like making a speech ready for battle. And I was like I was pretending to read this like tapestry with the sword, and him and his brother were like watching through the curtains, and like. They was watching us play this game, and like halfway through the speech, I just hear someone like just like proper burst out laugh, and me and him were so like embarrassed, we just legged it down the road. We just like literally fled the scene, just ran away from the house because we were so embarrassed.
So there's two options there: there's fight or there's flight.
And we,
you legged it.
I dropped my sword and my tapestry and just took to the open road.
How old were you?
16, 17. Of course not. I was like 10 or 11. Man. Like probably like on the borderline of like, you know, probably you got to just put aside those. I should have been like playing. I should have been down the arcade or something like that. I don't know, like playing the slotties. I think maybe that's what it was.
That's so good.
No, but but it's like it's the imagination things. And like I don't. But as I said, we have lived through. We're the last generation potentially that's going to have. That's going to have that. Like I don't, because we had like all this technology was like developing as we were growing up, and now like you see there's fellas at the club who have kids who are like 10, 11 years old, and they've had their whole lives with it, and they don't know anything different. And it must be, as soon as one kid would have it at school, you would feel social pressure to get it yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And kids are gonna be obviously asking after it. What do you reckon you would do?
I don't know. I think this is a hard one because you wouldn't want your kid to feel like alienated. Do you know what I mean? It's the same. Well, like it's the same thing with like kids food. Like I've seen people have kids before, and we're all like down having an ice cream and stuff like that, and they're like, "Oh I'm not going to give them any sugar." And this kid was like clearly wanted an ice cream. Like they were like, she was like hands like this. They could see how delicious it was and how much we're all enjoying. And they're like, she's not allowed sugar. And I'm just like, just give the kid like.
Were the parents eating ice?
Yeah, they were eating. Oh yeah,
no,
they were.
You
Yeah,
can't do that.
Double scooper. Like
Can't do that.
yeah, I'm like, I just sort of think like, yeah, you want the. But you made a fair point when you just like, I think it's if you had a kid and you wanted them to, and they wanted to have something, like try and make it yourself as best you can. But like if you're all going out for a day out, just let them eat what they want. So I think what I would try and do is I'd have like a half-hour cap a day, and like you can use that.
Yeah.
You can have when that's done, your half hour's done on it. But like that is how long you get on the thing.
Yeah.
Because it's otherwise it's just it could turn into hours very, very easily.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I did when I was like 14. I had a minor World of Warcraft addiction.
Yeah.
And it can really once it gets its claws into you, it's hard to. Did you ever play games like that?
Mate,
you weren't a video game.
Yeah,
were you?
honestly, I was like I played a few things like growing up, like Crash Bandicoot, and like I was into COD for a bit and stuff, but never really a gamer. Like weirdly, because it seems like every kid kind of was, but yeah, it just never really took my fancy. I was really lucky growing up, man. The street I lived, there was like I don't know, like 20 kids that lived on the street around the same age as me, so we'd always be playing like headers and volleys and like just out on the street causing mayhem.
Are you? It's surprising you're such a poor footballer. That's from what I've.
Wait, you saw my keep ups. I was with a deflated ball as well.
What did 4 or 5? Like it was quite.
I'd say it was more like 10.
What was I? So are you still friends with those lads and lasses now who you lived on that road with?
No, I have no idea where. Actually, no, tell a lie. There was one guy that lived on that street who lived in Bristol when I was living in Bristol, and I'd sort of stayed in touch with him over the years because he was like always round about the town I lived. But a lot of those people I got literally no idea where they are now.
Really?
Yeah, because that's the other thing about Facebook. It's like when you got Facebook, you've got all these friends, and you kind of can know where. Like if I wanted to check in, so I don't have it. I literally I haven't got a clue.
Do you remember? Did you ever go on holiday when you were a kid and you made like a holiday friend and then never ever saw him again?
Yeah.
Like it's quite that's gone. That's another aspect. It's like these weird little things that like when you're a kid, because it was so you'd be like this kid would be like your best mate for like 5 days and then like right, see you then. Yeah. See you never ever gonna see him again. My little sister actually, Matilda, she made this like I think she was some sort of Nordic country girl, but I think her name was Inca. And they were like, first day of the holiday, this family had driven to Italy from like Scandinavia or something. It was like a 60-hour car journey or something ridiculous. Wow. First day on the holiday, they're on the top of this slide, and I don't know, my sister, there was some sort of incident, and the girl fell off, broke her arm, had to go to Italian hospital. Rest of the holiday, like in a like a cast. Like,
mate, kids have got an unbelievable ability to like, you know, hurt themselves.
Yeah. But like, to be fair, like, I just felt real because like, she couldn't go in the water, man. She was like, and then they had to drive all the way back to. I never get like, why don't I just get a plane? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you don't mind a long journey, do you? You'll happily drive.
Yeah, but 60
400,
hours,
500
man.
miles.
I think, I don't know, I'd be up for a road trip. Like I really want to go to America and just like drive around.
Yeah.
Camp. I want to do Australia and do the coast and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, like 4 or 5 hour drive. Yeah.
Do you not think you couldn't do the nomad? You don't think you could do the because we watched we watched Nomadland, which is like had quite mixed reviews of my friends, but I was a massive fan of it and would recommend anyone to watch it because I was like, I think it's quite a beautiful film.
Same.
Nomadland on Amazon, but you don't reckon, and it talks about like people choosing this nomadic lifestyle where you have a van, you do it up, and you just like live in these like basically like hippie communities, I suppose. Where it's a large proportion of hippies, but not necessarily all of them. And you don't reckon you could do that?
Not indefinitely. Like I would genuinely like to try living in a van for like 6 months or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thought of doing it indefinitely is like, no, absolutely not.
The thing that I found interesting, which the film touched on, is like small issues when you live in modern society. And like obviously we rag on modern society, but it has like if your car breaks down or your plumbing doesn't work or anything, you break your arm, you can get it all sorted out really easily. But there, if like you get a spare tire in the middle of the desert, like you're in a pretty bad state.
Yeah.
And these little things which are like sorted so easily when you live in like comfort just become massive because you also have no money either. Like they basically just live off the land.
Yeah. Well, I think I've got like a massive respect for like, and that's one thing that I want to like develop more in my life is like those abilities to like skills to just be able to like be more self-sustainable almost.
Yeah, like robust.
Like those, when you think about, so for example, Jamie's dad, Declan Harkin, one of our friends who he just recently moved to a farm in like Devon, and he was like living in London, owned a salvage yard before that.
Yeah.
He's like real handy guy, but he's just moved to a farm, no farming experience, has become a farmer within a year. And it's just because he's just got this unbelievable ability to like look at stuff like, oh, that needs fixing. Like he's just so practical and hands-on with everything he does.
Yeah.
I think there's like so much to be said for being that sort of person. Like say the electricity went off tomorrow, the grid goes down.
The grid's down.
That's it. No, your phone's got 12 hours battery gone. You can't phone anyone anyway, so it doesn't matter.
No like, cash.
Yeah, no, well,
how are you
no cards are working.
Yeah, no
cards
like are working, nothing's working.
Like most people would just be completely and utterly screwed. Like they wouldn't even know how to like light a fire.
I genuinely think the country would be. That's what I was like. How long, if the internet went down before the country is ablaze, like completely in flames?
So this is the thing. So the first thing that would happen would be looting, right? Everyone would loot.
Yeah. Like, would you be looting?
Well, I don't know, because this is the point, right? Like you would get to, everyone would probably just like chill for a bit. Like everyone would just be like, oh, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
And then it only takes one person to start looting, and then everyone's mind's going, well, people are starting looting now.
Yeah.
If I don't start looting soon, everything's going to be
there's
gone.
a big bag of basmati rice. I want all the good stuff. I want beans with little sausages in and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, not even that, mate. The basmati rice will be gone. Trust me.
Pronto.
When the situation happened about a year and a half ago, whenever it did, like it's been a long time now. I remember going in the supermarket, like no toilet roll, no basmati rice, all gone. Like people pasta gone, like all sorts of shit. Like people just hoarding.
Pesto gone. That wasn't restocked as well for quite a few weeks.
Yeah.
I was on a bit of a pesto salmon hype at that time. So.
Not anymore.
Nope. Yeah.
Dead in the water.
Yeah, no more microplastics.
But yeah, what about you? Would you go? Do you think you'd get involved in the looting?
I'd like to say no, but mate, I don't know. Like that level of panic, like the thought of having like no food in, and there are going to be none, and like, because how are you say all the shops are cleared? There's no more food in the shops.
Yeah,
we're talking like a post-apocalyptic world. How are you getting food? Like,
yes.
Mate, it'd be Mad Max, mate. There'd be gangs driving around in big trucks, like trying to pillage.
Well, it'd be interesting to see how long it took. But where's the diesel coming from, man? Like that's the thing.
When the cars run out, all the motorways would be jammed. There'd be just like traffic jams. All the motorways are gone.
Yeah.
I just think, mate, a farm would be a secure farm, of course, with a secure perimeter and quite a good arsenal of weapons. Is sort of like what I reckon what you need to look at.
Have you seen the film Children of Men?
No, you told me to watch it. I didn't watch it. It's Clive Owen. I wanted to watch it with my girlfriend, and she wasn't having
Vetoed it.
She was saying 6 out of 10.
It is unbelievable. It's one of my favourite. Izzy will argue with me all day. It's a sci-fi film, right? I say it's a sci-fi film. She says it's not a sci-fi film, but it's like ridiculous. But anyway, there's a guy in that, and he's got this unbelievable gaff, which he's like built in the woods.
Yeah.
And he's got that set up like booby traps. Like you can't tell his house is there. It's literally woods all around it. You go through a clearing. He's got a car there under like leaves. He's got a proper setup. But you could theoretically, if you had enough animals, could you breed those animals indefinitely to keep having animals?
I think if you had a big enough pool.
Yeah.
But like you couldn't just have like 2 pigs and they just like those. But then if you think about it, if you had a good, the electricity's down, you'd have to rub them in salt. So it's like,
well,
not when they're alive.
Preserve them,
yeah. To preserve them. Yeah, not when they're alive. When they're dead, you have to like rub them in salt to like keep them. But where are you getting the salt from? This is what I mean, mate. See, you need bags and bags of salt.
I've actually got a trick. So apparently, and I've not tried this for myself, but if you press berries into dried, so say you dried out some like biltong or whatever, and you pressed berries into it, there's like, and nuts, the like vitamin E and some other things in the nuts and the berries acts as a preservative for the meat.
Where did you read that?
There's a little trick for you. There's a company in.
There's a little trick for it. Thank you.
Hopefully you never have to use it.
Yeah, hopefully I never have to. But like, mate, I just
you get someone watching this who's like an expert. They're like, that's complete bollocks.
Please send. No, but then because what if you got like poisonous berries?
Yeah, that's just what I mean, mate. There's a whole host of issues.
Yeah, we then send Izzy out to go and be the forager, and then like she'd come back with like a load of like poisonous berries, and everyone's like hospitalised.
Yeah, poisonous berry. That's the thing. You'd have to learn to hunt. That would be the key skill you'd need to develop.
Yeah, that would be the key skill. Without weaponry, you're seriously struggling.
Well, this is where like when the looting happens, rather than looting food, you loot weapons. You loot a bow and arrow, an axe,
of course,
a collection of knives.
What about like ordnance, guns?
Yeah, obviously, you need guns as well. But
well, there's the sportsmen and lads' guns, but they're a bit of a journey away.
I've got this like utopian vision of me like hunting deer in the forest with a bow and arrow.
Yeah, I'd sooner take
blowing his head off with a shotgun.
You could like track him down with the bow, and I'd just like pop up out the wood, bang, like straight. I'd be laying low in a bush. Now I don't know, but mate, I do think you're massively underplaying how hard it would be to hunt.
Yeah,
I think it's a serious skill that.
Well, like obviously we experienced it the other day, so we went to the like River Dart the other day, and we were like, we were talking about this on the way, where we were like talking about like how we'd hunt deer, and then we decided to go on a like trek down the river. We got about 5 meters, got absolutely destroyed by holly, getting holly and huffy. We're like, oh yeah.
If it was your decision to go barefoot, like. Josh was like, oh, we'll have a little trek downstream, a little bit of an adventure. We genuinely got to the first turn, and our feet was just full of like dried.
It's a painful path.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, there was a.
You need training.
Do you think that there was a guy, right? And I'll give some background. So we found this real nice spot in the River Dart, pretty secluded, and quite a bit of a trek to get down to. So there weren't that many people there because like some of the spots that are easy to get like rammed. And there was a guy who was sunbathing in the nude. And he located quite near us. Do you think that's like play on? Do you? There were families, and I know it's like the whole we're born naked and it's just but like, do you think it was and he was wearing this sort of like he was wearing a G-string, a male G-string.
Yeah, I know. So it's a really weird one for me because I'm like very like pro-choice.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Generally, but like, but then I think. Like personally, it doesn't. Like I wouldn't do that myself, but that doesn't necessarily mean other people shouldn't be able to do it. But then I do think like maybe there's a line crossed there when there's then kids around, he should have probably put his
jocks
trunks back on.
Yeah.
But he was like very determined to be.
But he wasn't
naked.
he wasn't a happy naturist. Like he seemed quite angry and quite entitled. I think he was annoyed people had found his spot.
Yeah, and it was actually teeming with people.
Yeah,
Wasn't
it was. Yeah. Well, I reckon there was like it was more people than I've ever seen down there, and it was in a weekday as well. So like I can imagine it gets pretty rammed at the weekends.
Yeah, for sure.
Which you wouldn't want. Like if you was like, I imagine if you're that way inclined, you want to just be able to just do it like on your own.
Yeah,
Like, I'm not like I've got into the water naked.
Yeah,
When there's no one around.
yeah,
Because it's very liberating. So I can understand that, but I just don't. It seemed like he wanted people to look at. Which I do think there is that aspect of naturism that is like you want people to look at you, which is little bit odd in my opinion.
Yeah, there was something strange, especially I don't know. Like I haven't stumbled across enough like naturists to like make a fair assessment.
Yeah.
But I think that guy, as an individual, did seem a bit strange. Yeah,
The control group definitely isn't big enough. We need some more control groups.
Yeah,
That's the thing. Well, Alec lost a game of cards yesterday down in Cornwall, and he was put on one of the lads' stories. He had to go on the beach naked. Because apparently half that beach is like, I don't know where it is, like a private beach in Cornwall.
What's
He
a
wouldn't
nudist
tell me-
beach?
It kind of half and half. He said there's like it's nudist friendly. Let's say that. And he had to go in the Oggin. Do you know what the Oggin is?
No.
That's marine talk for the sea.
How many years you lived in Devon?
That's not Devon. That's military speak. The Oggin.
Okay.
What do you mean? 6 years though. 6 years.
Okay, yeah. So
Mate, I heard you say where to the other day.
What do you mean? Is that a Devon speak?
Well, it's kind of Welsh as well, isn't it? Did you say where to?
Yeah. That's from birth. That is. I was saying you lived in Devon 6 years and now you're using military speak on me.
No, but you say that whole. This is one thing I don't understand with like the Welsh speak, and they touch on it in Gavin and Stacey. It's like what's the now thing? Or, I'm coming now.
No, that's not a Welsh thing. I don't think that's a South African thing.
But you say it.
Yeah, because I lived with George Hutchins for like 3 years. So
Right.
Yeah, and I just picked up on it. He says just now or now.
I'm coming now.
Now is like now, and then just now is like this. That could be a just him thing as well. I'm just assuming
so just now is like in a bit.
in a bit. Yeah, like the Welsh thing is now in a minute. That's what they say.
Yeah, and you also say that.
Yeah. I do.
Now in a minute is.
It's like in a bit. Yeah.
I'll come in a bit. Like,
Yeah.
I'll do my best.
If I'm doing it now, I'm doing it now. Anyway, we're going off topic. Alex,
we are, yeah.
Starker's in the beach.
Yeah, and he said that that's the biggest like kickback he's had from any, and it wasn't even on his story, but apparently he's had like messages flying in. He had someone tweeted him and stuff like that. He was just like, mate, it's all like popping off massively.
What abuse?
No, not abuse. Like people are quite rating it. It wasn't. He didn't have his old boy out. You just see his bare jacksie, and he looks very, very tanned, almost burnt.
Yeah.
I was quite admiring his tan yesterday actually, but it's quite a weird vibe that I would have thought a nudist beach would be nudist friendly. Seems quite. You would have thought it's either one way or the other.
Yeah, well, I guess nudist friendly is like you go into the beach, but like if someone gets naked there, it's like that is completely fair game. Like if it's a nudist friendly.
Yeah, I think nudist beaches is like you just dip your bread, mate. Like do what you want, really.
Yeah.
Obviously within reason. Like,
but then like if you want to go, like say you're going with a friend who's a nudist, like they could get, and then you don't necessarily have to. It's not an obligation to go on there and be nudist.
I'm not anti-nudist by any stretch, as I don't think you are. I think if you're on the moors and it's empty and you want to frolic in the long grass naked, please be my guest.
I was just laughing because like we planned to talk about nutrition and training during this episode. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think I'm ultimately on the topic of nudity. I'm pro-choice. Do what you want.
Yeah, same within reason. But then what is the?
Where's the line?
Are we? How long are we going for there?
We're at 43. Maybe we got a bit of time.
So what should we? Yeah, we got another 15. What do you want to talk about? Training.
Should we go back to it? Well, I did have a question for you on training actually.
Yeah.
So obviously you said now while you've been off season, you've been doing like more of the strongman stuff.
Yeah.
Farmers carries. Atlas stone cleans.
Atlas stones, great exercise.
Unbelievable exercise. Yoke carries. What else you been doing?
Overhead yoke. Just sort of like those are the main ones. What and the sled pushes on the
paralysis stuff. Yeah.
I think it's just like anything that. I mean, those backwards sled. I don't know. It's the knees over toes guys. Like all about it. It was honestly. It's just. The reason why I think it's good is because it just takes if you're walking with the sled backwards, your legs are going to get like filled with blood, and there's no other way you can. Which I think all that kind of stuff which is actually kind of, because I saw you doing it without it the other day, the Olympic lifting.
Yeah.
Is that they're very technical lifts, and I know, and he puts a very compelling argument for it. It's like if you do like 3 sessions, your taught form is good enough to get something out of the exercise.
Yeah.
But I feel like with all this stuff is like with the farmer's carry, with the Atlas stones, is like you in order to get up, you find your own technique. You know what I mean? You if you're picking someone up and carrying it a long way, there's no way you have to do it with the correct technique. Otherwise, you won't be able to do it.
Yeah.
Whereas with the Olympic list, I think there's so many ways in which you can do it shit, basically.
Yeah. Well, I've hurt, like, from doing that first session with Alex, I've hurt my wrist. My wrist is in quite a lot of pain. But like, it was my first
for like
time
catching it.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, from catching it, like, I've never done it before, and I didn't feel the pain at the time. But like since then, I've got down to some.
I do think it is a beautiful thing. Like, I think it's something that when I see Alec doing it and he's good at it, and you hear like the bar clicking and stuff, I can see why it's like, because it's sort of a proper blend of training, strength, and like true technique, and you can become like a real student of the game.
Yeah.
And this is why actually sort of, I suppose, like with powerlifting or Olympic lifting and all that kind of stuff, is like there's no end result. There's always more weight to lift. So I can see why people dedicate a lot of time to it. Powerlifting is one thing. With the bench, squat, and deadlift, I find it a little. It's quite a strange subculture, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like,
just on the top of that, do you know who Dan Green is, the powerlifter?
Yeah, like long hair, like incredible.
Looks like you.
Well, no, like if it's like quite a lot better shape than me. But I know
he's fucking massive.
He's an absolute tank. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
But I find that, so with the Olympic lifting, I completely get how addictive it is, and I think there's like a lot of. I can imagine there's a lot of crossover to rugby, and just in terms of like you feel powerful doing that.
Yeah.
Like if you know you can like clean, I don't know, like 130 kilos or whatever, and like be really explosive through that movement. I think like your ability on the rugby pitch, like, you know, bump someone off. I think I feel like there would be a lot of crossover.
Yeah.
But is it worth it, because there's a high likelihood of you potentially injuring yourself doing that movement? And I know Alex like really proficient in it, so maybe not for him, but like for the general person, maybe not. But with the strongman stuff, for me, I see so much crossover from that into rugby, especially for like pack players and front row particularly. And I think like stuff like the med ball cleans. This is one thing I don't really get about rugby, and you can go into what your strength and conditioning program is after, but like. When I've seen strength and conditioning programs in the past, they're like, you know, squat, bench, that sort of thing. Like
very like linear movements.
Very linear movements. And then when I see someone like Atlas Stone cleaning, your back's like rounded when you pick up the Atlas Stone, and then you're like coming through a full range of motion. And for me, that's like perfectly kind of replicates like what you're doing when you're like jackling the ball. And I just think it's crazy that like the reality of rugby is that you're often in these like awkward, unperfect positions, but yet you never train weights. You always train weight with perfect.
I think it's all about like mitigating risk, but it's weird though. From Atlas, the Atlas stones, I've never ever got a tight back from doing them. Like I've always, and actually another thing I was saying the other day is like I do like say at the end of like a Wednesday session we all do like a bit of arms, like a pump.
Yeah.
And like I never get like DOMs in my arms, like I don't know, maybe they're not growing or whatever, even though you're doing an exercise to do that. But after doing the stones, all my forearms, my biceps and all that are like so DOMsy.
Yeah.
So you must have like inadvertently give it, like, if you want bigger arms, do that, do you know what I mean? But then I don't know if the reason why that happens is because your whole body's getting such a stimulation that you're just like, I don't know, maybe you get like whole body DOMs kind of thing. But like they do RDLs and they do all this thing because they want to like save your back, but that's what gives most players a tight back, is by doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, RDLs, yeah, for sure. For me personally,
yeah, I had to stop doing them. Like they like really like tying my back up.
So how does your training change from like, so you're off season now, you're doing the strongman stuff, then when you go into season, how does that look like in pre-season, and then how does that change when you get into actual season?
Pre-season we do a lot of weights. I think we do like four big sessions a week, and then when you probably start the season, like up until about Christmas. The thing is, this was all like really put on a strain because we had that really, really long season. We had two seasons back to back. So by the end of it, your weights are just like minimal because you're just basically doing like what you can do without call, because you want to have the maximum effort for training and then for the game.
Yeah.
So you don't put as much time into the weights. So pre-season will be like, it's a similar sort of movement, so it is kind of all barbell movements, because what they don't, yes, I can get this, if they don't want to put a movement in which is going to injure you. Mm-hmm. So they just do real ones that they know you're right, they're not going to give you like
so what, like,
an adverse reaction.
When you rock up at pre-season, are they sitting down with you and saying, right, our goal for you this pre-season is like, we want you to get a bit stronger, or like, do you set goals in terms of like specific strength and conditioning goals?
The way Chiefs do it is it's a lot more player led. Like you could go to them and say, but they're quite, as far as like the physical aims goes, like you go to them and you say what you kind of want to do, unless there's a glaring thing that you need to work on, in which case they'll sort of come after you. As long as you're willing to work and you're willing to like put in the effort, they'll basically always go with what you fancied.
And do they facilitate that in terms of like, do they say, right, okay, each player, like do they put a meeting on where they're like, right, everyone needs to think about like what they want to achieve in terms of strength and conditioning? You all have to think about it, and then you go to or is it completely lax? Like so someone could rock up and say you have nothing in particular in mind they want to achieve, and they could just kind of go through the motions?
I think the way the way Chiefs generally like to do it is they kind of do like block periodization, so they'll do like hypertrophy, strength, power, and then repeat, and they try and peak it towards like different parts of the season, different games of the season. Is what I think that could be. I could be butchering that.
Yeah.
But I think as you get more experienced players and they know that you sort of know what you're doing, you can kind of go up to them and like, I think I need to do this, and I think I need to do this, and they'll generally go along with like what you're. But then I suppose it's like they put the ball in your court. If you then do something where you injure yourself or something like that, it's kind of, I suppose it's on you more.
Yeah. But I kind of like that in a way, because I think sometimes in professional environments like that, there's not enough responsibility given to the players. It's like the coach is like completely like, it's my, they completely control exactly everything that's going on. And I think there's something about like, to being an adult, and it must be weird when you're like, you grow up going through a rugby system and academy, because it's like, at what point do you stop being like an academy guy and then you become a guy where it's like you're entrusted to do your own stuff?
This is why I would, and it's a weird one, because if ever I don't know if I will, but if I ever did go into like coaching kind of side of things, I think sometimes it can pay people to leave an environment they've been in for a long time, because you kind of shake up you can become part of the furniture in a way, which is how I felt when I was originally at Wasps.
Yeah.
Like you've been there so long that you don't. You see it all the time. Like young players, they're sort of like going along okay, and then they go to a different team and they have a complete, and it reinvigorates them as well. They're seen in a different light. They can go from being like a squad player to like an out starter at a different team. So I don't know, it's a weird one. I think sometimes change is good in that regard.
So for this, I completely agree on that. I see how that would work. Like you're just going through the motions year on year and year.
Yeah.
You're comfortable. You're never going to get released. You're like playing whatever.
Yeah.
But you go to another team, you've got a point to prove. Put your finger out, and then it improves you as a player. What have you got? Any particular things you're looking to achieve like through this pre-season in terms of S&C?
I genuinely haven't given it much thought. Like what I wanted to do with this off season, and I think I actually have done with another week left, is I didn't want to like think about forgetting about playing. I actually wanted to, or about the rugby for a bit. I actually wanted to forget about it.
Yeah.
And sort of in the middle week, I wasn't. There was like a period I was getting up and going about my days. I was training. I was seeing you, seeing other friends, and like I was just enjoying, like, just sort of being present, I suppose.
Yeah.
And wasn't worrying about what had been or what was to come. And I kind of wanted to say I want to keep going with that same vibe until pre-season starts, and then I'll be like, right, now I'm completely committed and now I'm completely focused, and now I'll think about it. So I haven't really given it much thought. I think next weekend, just before I go in, I'll start like turning it over in my mind a little bit, because then we've got like 8 solid weeks of work before the first game.
Yeah, I think that, mate, I really think that's a good way to be. Like, it's so easy, and I find this with work, like, we're so busy sometimes that I'll work all weekend and roll into the next week.
Yeah.
And that fire will go from underneath me, you know what I mean, with a get up and go in the morning. So I'm like really strict with myself to take weekends off, and then I always get up to Monday morning and I'm literally like, I can't wait to go. And I think, like, obviously with your seasons, it's just like my weeks are like a micro version of your seasons. That's like the macro. So I think that's a good decision.
But it's weird, something I feel that we both, obviously you being self-employed and me being a sportsman, is that you don't your work does go home with you. Because if you work for a company or whatever, or like when you were in London doing the financial stuff, and when Izzy, your girlfriend, was working doing the recruitment stuff, you finish work at 5 o'clock or on a weekend and you don't have to think about it again. You can just put it aside. It is a lot easier to switch off. And I think we are kind of, and it's the way society is as well. You're taught to always should be doing more. You should be thinking about it. You should be trying to get ahead. And what was it? Mo was on the other day. He said like rest and digest. It's like crucial when you get the opportunity to do it. Just actually do it and don't feel guilty about doing that.
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
Just like completely relaxing is not a bad thing. Stress is good, and like that does you need that as well. But just it does pay just to like chill out sometimes.
Mate, like we live in a society where it's like sleep when you're dead. You know, everyone like has a badge on their shoulder, like how hard they can work, how many hours they can do.
Dog eat dog sort of thing.
Dog eat dog world sort of, and it's just like that's not how it actually works. Like you need to balance sympathetic with the parasympathetic. Like the harder you work out, the harder you need to work in. That's like a Paul Chek saying. And like the way I often describe it to people is like that analogy of the stress bucket, where you know you're filling that up every day with, and they could be good stresses or bad stresses. You know, training session could fill it up. A bad meal might fill your stress bucket up. A poor night's sleep might fill your stress bucket up. But then a good night's sleep is going to bring that down. A good meal is going to bring that down. You know, getting out in nature, doing some breath work, whatever is going to bring that down. And it's about managing those stress levels and you know, and the thing with training as well, with that being a good stressor, you need to earn the right to train. Like you need to be in a good state to train, because we all know when, you know, I'm sure you've experienced this, I've definitely experienced this, where my stress bucket's full and I push a training session and I'll pick up a niggle or I'll injure myself or, you know, I'll completely push myself over the edge. So, yeah, I think it's super important to manage that. One question sprung to mind, right? So, you said when you get into rugby, the pre-season and stuff is all the unilateral training. So what will your training look like during pre-season and the season? And secondly, if you were tasked with S&C of a rugby team, what would you do?
What, just from a weights point of view, what's going on?
Purely like
purely weights. Now we
weights.
do when it's pre-season at Exeter, we do 5 days and we have the weekends off. So we do like 2 highs, Monday, Tuesday, high days, Wednesday's a low day, Thursday, Friday are both high days.
You mean like upper body, lower body?
No, high as in high output. So like
all
the weight sessions are whole body for the most part, but they let you kind of like, I'll probably do like uppers, lowers, you know what I mean? Like, so I do 2 lowers a week, 2 uppers a week.
Yeah.
Oh, that's probably how I'd do it.
And what would one session look like?
It'd be like an anterior lower body movement, like a squat, or I only do so I'd do like lunges, and then like a posterior lower body movement, like a glute ham raise or something like that. And then other stuff in there like jumps. But they do a lot of pre-ab and that kind of thing. That's a lot of, half the session is like pre-ab movements to like get you moving correctly, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And in terms of periodization, when you said it's like hypertrophy, strength, power, would you say like pre-season would be more like high rep, then you move into more strength? I think so, yeah. No,
it would be, yeah. But it's like they kind of, as I said, this will be my 7th pre-season with the club, they kind of let you run it how you want to do. I want to do a bit more high rep stuff, because it's not, I don't normally ever do it. I normally do like between 3 and 5 and maybe lower. Like I never do higher rep stuff, so I would be quite up for doing that just because it's a different part of the curve that I don't normally do.
Yeah.
And if I was tasked with mate, I honestly think it's a hard task, man. Like, it's actually one I wouldn't want to be given. Like there's a lot of responsibility on your shoulders if things aren't going right. I always feel that the thing you get pointed at the medical and the S&C staff first, like they normally first in the firing line. Yeah. So no, it's not. No, I wouldn't want to. I don't know.
It's difficult as well, right? Because you've got like you're dealing with props, and then you got like wingers and scrum half. Like you can't cookie cutter template for everyone. Like surely it's individualized training program.
But that's the hard thing. Is it's like how much of it do you want to do cookie cutter where everyone like, okay, this is how we train, this is the vibe of the team, and how much of it is like, do you want to be totally specific, individual specific? I think the main thing that and the best SNCs that I've worked with, they've all had a really just strong philosophy. It'd be really good to have like get one of them on the, or have someone on the show and have like sort of, I don't know, maybe start a debate of some kind. I would really like to see that. But that's what I mean. I'd like but then maybe if there's 2, but that's what happened with the Lane Norton Saladino carnivore MD debate, wasn't it? They were both like saying valid stuff, but they were both completely opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So it kind of, you didn't really get anywhere with that anyway.
Yeah. I think it's difficult as well. Like often, like there's so many metrics you can measure in those regards. It's like, how do you know? But you know, there could be two paths that lead up the same mountain. They're both going to get you to the top, and someone might argue their way is optimal. Someone else might argue their way, and there's often no real way to measure it. 'Cause you've got so many different factors playing into the equation.
There's always if someone says their way is the only way, it always kind of does give me a little bit of an alarm bell.
Yeah,
like in anything, like any kind of like, because then you're not working within reason and like trial and error, and you're not willing to have your mind changed. Then it becomes an ideology, and you don't own the ideology. The ideology owns you, and that can be anything. That's like nutrition or training, flipping. Like the way you view the world, that could be anything, I suppose.
Yeah. And what I'd say on that as well is like every person is so individual. Like again, another quote from Paul Checkby says we're as different on the inside as we are on the outside.
Yeah.
And like a training program, and we gave this analogy when we podcasted with Max with like Dorian Yates, right? He came in and changed. There was plenty of guys getting massive bodybuilders, you know, before that, using completely different training systems. Like the way Arnie trained compared to the way Dorian Yates
completely
changed.
Different,
completely different. But yet they both achieved amazing results. And it's like, well, you've got to think like, well, you need an individual approach then. Like what might work for one person.
What just works for you, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
We've just hit an hour and a minute, and I know we said we were going to get into nutrition and sort of like holistic practices, but that's probably another ep now.
I reckon we got another ep. Yeah, we got a little bit side, but I think, you know, got to enjoy the journey.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you want to plug your?
Yeah, for sure. So, guys, if you haven't listened to any of their other episodes, I've got a company called Ape Nutrition. It's a supplement and health food company. We've just released 2 new products. We've got a grass-fed beef organ capsule, so it's heart, liver, and kidney, desiccated into a powder, and it's freeze-dried raw and encapsulated. It's basically nature's multivitamin is the way I like to say it. It's in a super bioavailable format, so when you get like a normal multivitamin off the shelf, a lot of them are like synthetic ingredients, and they'll be in a form that may not be that readily usable to the body. So for example, they might have the retinol form of vitamin A, the beta carotene form of vitamin A as opposed to the retinol, whereas all the nutrients in the beef organ capsules are in their like most bioactive form for human beings. So in terms of vitamin A, that's retinol. So yeah, that's the one product, and then the other one's colostrum, again from grass-fed UK cattle. Colostrum's great for boosting immunity. It's got a load of different growth factors in there, and it's good for healing the gut as well if you've got any gut problems. We got a bunch of other products as well, but those 2 are kind of the 2 new launch ones at the moment. If you want to find any more out, the website is apenutrition.co.uk, and if you've got any questions for me, Instagram is ape_nutrition, and just DM me on there and I'll get back to you. Harry?
Nah, that was good. Nice one. Till next time.
Yeah, you want to plug your...
Harry.Williams91.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, lovely.
Nice one.